Welcome back to the channel. A lot to unpack, a lot to talk about this week. Want to focus in on a very important topic, mortgage fraud and mortgage fraud detection, as that seems to be a big topic, one that we haven't really touched on in quite some time. But I think we're going to start to hear a lot more about this, especially when we look to our neighbors in the US and what they've come up with, or how their technology is helping to detect fraud in just seconds. And we'll be talking a little bit more about how that potentially works. And more importantly, where does it stop? Especially when it comes to artificial intelligence. There's obviously the good, there's the bad, and then there could be the ugly. So I want to take an opportunity to go through that this week. So once again, welcome back to the channel. If you have not subscribed, we invite you to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and let us know your thoughts, questions, and comments in the comment section below. I know with artificial intelligence and all these technologies, there is going to be a lot of controversy, especially for those Canadians that may or may not be familiar with it. Now, ultimately, I believe artificial intelligence is a new form of technology. It is the fourth industrial revolution. Basically going to be changing the course of history. Whether you agree or disagree, there's no doubt that artificial intelligence is changing and reshaping the playing field for a lot of businesses, much like the internet did, much like the computer did a long time ago, and much like the car did. You may be familiar with things like Chat or Grok, or these large language models as they're called. Basically allows users to interact with the technology. Now, the onset of these particular large language models have helped companies like Palantir Technologies gain a lot more notoriety. And ultimately, as someone who knows a little bit about Palantir Technologies, invested in them, but ultimately understands where that technology can take us. Whether you are familiar or not familiar with it, I do encourage you to do some research on companies like Palantir Technologies, what they're bringing to the forefront, especially when it comes to their government and enterprise dominance, right? What they're doing for the government sector in the US. This is literally just a part of what Palantir does. And recently we saw them partner up with Fannie Mae, which provides mortgages and funding. Basically, if I had to draw a parallel, just to put it simply without getting too far in depth, it would be like CMHC, the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation, in a nutshell. A lot of mortgages in the US that do not fit other criteria that are backed by the government would go through Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, which are basically like your CMHC, Canada Guarantee, or your Sagan, right? So ultimately, these are federally run. Here in Canada, CMHC, I don't think that's going to be something that's going to be departing. It is a government-backed, subsidized housing association for default insured mortgages and other products like rental housing, so on and so forth. So it's a big, big player in the housing space is what I'm trying to get at. So if you take that into consideration, say, okay, companies like Fannie Mae, CMHC are so important and vital to the housing market that they're almost too big to fail. And we saw what happened in the US through the great financial crisis, when the government had to cut a $200 billion check to bail out these associations, of which now they're profitable. They've paid back the governments, but it creates a lot of controversy. And because of that, there is so much fraud that could potentially be going across their desk. And in these environments right now, with all this uncertainty, fraud tends to go up, right? So these are things that we should be paying close attention to. And just this week, ultimately, we saw how this partnership between Palantir and Fannie Mae played out. And here's just a small clip.
We gave their technology 4 real loan files. Now, if you have a mortgage, there's a lot of paper in mortgages, right? Reams of paper. We gave them 4 loan files. It was a mortgage case, a fraud case, where someone had docked the financial statements, gave us fake. It was one broker involved in all these 4 cases. It took our really talented investigators 60 days to detect fraud in 2 of these files. It took your technology 10 seconds. Like, holy cow.
So as you can see, with all the data, I mean, as a mortgage broker, trust me, the amount of data, the papers that we're collecting, it's almost endless. Thankfully, it's digital. We're not hacking down trees like we used to, but right now we're going through a lot of data. I mean, ultimately, think about it, we're just a small pond. Think about companies like CMHC that are getting it from all different angles across Canada. So the amount of data, and because of the fact that this data has repetition, right? A lot of the fraud that could be coming through comes through not only in particular situations, right? Obviously, it could be for example, the brokers, it could be coming from a specific bank. All these things it knows, it picks up on these things. This is where this data can actually siphon through all of it very quickly and detect it in literally 10 seconds, right? Something that would take, as the video clearly shows, someone 6 months to figure out, right? Generally, a specific fraud happens in specific segments. Like it's either falsified T4s, it's basically falsified notice of assessments, job letters, income. The artificial intelligence can scrape all the information and basically go online and say, hey, wait a minute, when was that company or that job letter, or who is that company, who's the person that's writing it? Hey, wait a minute. For example, we got a job letter from that company just 2 weeks ago, and all of a sudden the HR person is different. Does that person? It can cross-reference things much faster. It can draw connections in the database, with all that data much quicker than a human can, right? So you can feed it all that data, and ultimately it can do a lot more. It can do a lot more heavy lifting with that data much more quickly. And ultimately, in an age where we are trying to hammer down on fraud. I mean, look, a lot of people talking about CRA. We talked about this was in the budget last year, that they were going to try to get the CRA to tie in to the banks, and the banks being able to verify what the CRA has. I mean, look, that's great in theory. It doesn't really prevent a lot of other fraud. It's a step in the right direction. Right now, as home prices continue to maybe level off, fall off a little bit, maybe there's a lot of Canadians with lines of credits, with mortgages, who are very worried about the future. I mean, we've always talked about mortgage renewals in Canada. You just sign it and send it back, especially if you're out of a job or potentially, your situation has changed. You can just sign back that mortgage renewal and it's basically done, right? Very little checks. Maybe the lender's pulling a soft check behind just to see where you are financially with your credit. But now imagine the level of artificial intelligence and where it could go. I mean, remember, artificial intelligence can look at catching fraud. It can also catch what potentially could be a problem with your income, your credit down the road, like almost like Minority Report. It knows the crime is going to happen or is likely to happen, the probability based on certain parameters, right? So this is super interesting, I guess, right? I mean, let me know what you think in the comments sections. We onto something here, because at the end of the day, it can go through Google, it can go through Facebook, it can go through Instagram. A lot of us live online. A lot of people put a lot of data out there. So if you put in that your job is X, but online it says that you're working for Y, it's scours the internet, goes through LinkedIn and says, hey, wait a minute, this person's not working there. Or hey, look at this credit card, look at that, look at this. Oh, this person has it can actually go in and maybe tie into the land registry and say, hey, wait a minute, when you bought this home 5 years ago, you didn't own another home, but now we've tied into land registry. Now you own 2 other homes. Wait a minute, is there a problem there? So, I mean, where does this really stop? And I think that is going to be the real question. I mean, with the good of catching mortgage fraud and allowing these systems to enter into the banking regulation, and just to keep in mind, some banks, like some of the major banks here in Canada, they already are using systems from Palantir to help them in some of their operations, maybe not at the full scale yet. But as companies like Palantir continue to dominate in their space and continue to gain market share with those businesses where they go back and they spend more because they see what the value is, well, will they adapt other measures to go into other channels and communicate and allow different levels of the banks to actually communicate with each other more efficiently? And where will that bring us in the future? Let me know what you think in the comment section below about mortgage fraud detection AI. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you all next week.